The rain had come down in heavy sheets that evening, beating against the windows of the quiet coastal restaurant where Emma, a 23-year-old waitress with tired eyes and a fading smile, worked her final shift of the week. She tried to hide the slight tremble in her hands as she placed glasses on a tray. It had been a long day, and the ache in her feet felt like a knife twisting with every step she took. But she carried on, because she always did. She had grown used to swallowing exhaustion, hiding worry, and smiling through life's sharp edges. And yet tonight, something different was about to happen, something she never could have imagined. Because sitting at table 7 were 3 wealthy men who were about to decide her fate, and they had no idea the billionaire owner of the entire restaurant chain was quietly listening from the shadows, backhand index pointing right. If you believe kindness and second chances still matter in this world, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps powerful stories reach more hearts. Emma approached the table with the calm professionalism she'd practiced for years, even though exhaustion clung to her like a second skin. The 3 men were loud, entitled, and clearly used to getting what they wanted. They wore expensive watches, designer clothes, and smug expressions that hinted they were used to treating people like her as invisible. She placed their plates before them carefully, but they barely glanced at her, until it came time to pay. One of them pushed the bill away with a flick of his hand, as though it were beneath him. Another leaned back in his chair, looking her up and down with disdain before saying that people like her should be grateful to even serve someone like him. Emma felt heat rise to her face, but she stayed composed. The third man smirked and openly refused to pay, claiming they had connections, and she should know better than to challenge them. The words stung, but what hurt most was the humiliation. She had been struggling to pay her rent, skipping meals to ensure her little brother could eat, and working double shifts just to survive. And now, 3 wealthy men who could easily afford a meal were mocking her dignity. Emma stepped away, trying to steady her breath. She didn't know that in the far corner of the restaurant, sitting alone in a simple black coat with a quiet, observant expression, was Alexander Hale, the billionaire owner of the entire Hale dining group. He had arrived unannounced, as he often did, preferring to see the true state of his businesses without anyone knowing who he was. He watched everything silently, Emma's professionalism, her kindness to each table, her struggle to hide her shaking hands, and now, this moment of cruelty by customers who believed they were untouchable. Alexander had grown up poor. He remembered the sting of disrespect, the taste of hopelessness, the nights he went hungry. So as he watched Emma try to gather her courage, something inside him stirred. Emma approached the manager, explaining the situation quietly, but instead of helping her, the manager shrugged and told her to just let it go. It wasn't worth upsetting important customers. Her heart dropped. Not for the money, but for the realization that she truly was alone in this moment. But she didn't know Alexander had stood up from his table and begun walking toward table 7 with a controlled, powerful calm. He approached them without raising his voice, but his presence alone commanded attention. The men, unaware of who he was, laughed when he asked them why they were refusing to pay. With arrogance dripping from their voices, they repeated their excuses and belittling comments, only this time, they said them loudly enough for Emma to hear, just as they intended. But Alexander wasn't like the others who usually let them get away with this behavior. He leaned in slightly, lowered his voice, and revealed exactly who he was. The room froze, the men's faces drained of color as Alexander calmly explained that not only would they be paying their bill in full, but they would also be permanently banned from every establishment he owned. They stumbled over apologies, but he didn't even glance their way as security escorted them out. His attention was on Emma, the girl who had endured humiliation with grace. He asked her to walk with him to his office in the back. Emma felt her heartbeat thunder in her chest, unsure what would happen next. She expected reprimand or formality. Instead, Alexander asked about her life, her struggles, and how long she'd been carrying so much alone. She hesitated at first, but something in his eyes made it safe to be honest. She told him about her little brother, about barely making rent, about the exhaustion that lived in her bones. She didn't cry, but her voice cracked, And that was enough for Alexander. He offered her something she never expected, a full scholarship to finish her education, a new position within the company with far better pay, and support for her younger brother. It wasn't charity. It was recognition. He had seen her strength, her resilience, and he believed people like her deserved chances, not humiliation. Emma's breath caught, and for a moment she stood frozen, overwhelmed by the sudden shift in her life. It felt unreal, like the universe had paused just to give her one moment of hope, and for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to release the tears she'd held inside, backhand index pointing right. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your support brings more emotional stories to life. As the days passed, Emma's life transformed. She walked differently, spoke differently, and no longer carried the crushing weight of invisible struggles. Her brother thrived. She thrived. And Alexander, from the background, ensured she would never again feel the sting of being powerless. Before we end, speech balloon special request, comment, kindness matters. If you believe every hard-working person deserves respect. Emma never forgot that night, the night 3 rich men tried to break her spirit, and one true billionaire rebuilt her life with nothing but compassion, fairness, and humanity. And that night became a reminder to thousands who later heard her story, that real power is not in money or status, but in how one chooses to treat those who serve with dignity.